if he was to say that diesel prices will be raised, the rest of the speech will not be heard. Seriously, I mean,
he can say it at the end, can't he?
The government is in such a fragile position.
Well, he can just say it at the end.
There will be a complete riot on the floor of the House.
Yeah, but Meghnad,
it's a very sad thing to say.
Meghnad is a
sad thing to say. Very sad. And maybe I'm dramatizing it, but I think it could happen.
Meghnad is a pragmatic man, a practiced.
My hope is one thing, my expectation is different.
Because this is definitely a populist measure.
Oh,
and getting rid of it is definitely something that is good for the economy.
Cutting diesel subsidy. No, it may be, but there are people out there, and you heard me on petrol subsidy. People out there say everything is Aam Aadmi. Petrol subsidy is Aam Aadmi, diesel subsidy is Aam Aadmi. Ye log pagal hai.
Parvaz different is the politics of the budget, whether the Trinamool impact will be there on the budget or not. Let me just read out a very political point in the economic.
One small point. A bold measure, or a series of bold reformist measures presupposes either a very deft political leadership, which you had under Narasimha Rao, who could inveigle his way through it, or it requires a conviction politician. At present, you don't even have the Prime Minister coming and owning up to the railway budget.
No, but who's the obstacle? 1 minute, Swapanda. Who's the obstacle?
They have nothing. I think it was Roosevelt who said you have nothing to fear but fear itself.
The obstacle. Do you acknowledge that the obstacle is Mamata Banerjee?
No,
Mamata Banerjee is the obstacle for banking. Mamata Banerjee is the obstacle for pension.
No, I think it's very nice to make Mamata the ogre.
Yeah.
Make Mamata the ogre. But she represents a particular strand of thinking, which is very much a part of the entire.
But you have you have a very flexible Mulayam Singh Yadav.
No, you're flexible only because of certain pressures which are being mounted, which is why the BSP and the SP are.
But then coalition, let's be realistic, coalition works on these pulls and pressures, and at the moment it looks that Mulayam Singh would be a better bet for the government than Mamata ever will be.
Honestly, Mulayam Singh supporting any cut in the subsidies? Can you see him?
No, that's not the question.
But do you see him bringing down a government because the subsidies are cut? I don't see that either.
No.
So
I just want to make a point here.
No, 1 second. Do we see Mulayam Singh Yadav saying that if you increase FDI in banking, pension and insurance, I will stand opposed to it?
No, I don't think so.
I will pull out my 22 MPs and I'll reduce the government to a non-working minority.
I don't think so.
I don't think anyone will.
So then the government is free. Because the word on the street is that Mulayam has promised to give outside support to the government.
You know, we have
FDI in banking and insurance will not going to be a problem. Problem are going to be subsidies, increasing prices of diesel or things like that, because that is a bigger signal than FDI. And I think you have to not only worry about Mamata Banerjee, you have to worry about Sonia Gandhi as well. You know, there are two populist checks on Pranab Mukherjee, and he will have had to square with her before putting the budget how much slack she will allow him.
But he's already taken the hit of the food subsidy bill. What more can he do?
And Arnav, both insurance and banking requires legislation. Both of them require legislation.
Dr. Rajiv Kumar, you have a point to make on the increasing caps on FDI in banking, pensions and insurance.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that when we made many suggestions to the finance minister when he met the economists, the one thing he said at the end was, oh, I would do all these things, but I don't have the numbers. But yesterday, the Prime Minister, or the day before, was very clear in his mind, in his statement saying, oh, we have the numbers in the Parliament. I think both of them are astute enough to know that now there is no more movement with this populism. Otherwise, he would not have made this statement. Let's not forget that these two gentlemen are very astute. They know when they've come to the end of a road, and I think tomorrow they will surprise us by taking some of these measures with the FDI in the insurance and banking, which doesn't matter to Mulayam Singh Yadav in any case, because he's got agriculture interests. So I think what you will get is some reforms moving forward, and the mention of others for a later date. But I didn't say this 2 days ago, but I think in the last 2 days what has happened is beginning to tell me that the budget tomorrow would be a good one.
I don't want to be the party pooper here, but I must tell you, Mr. Rajiv Kumar, last budget session also started with the Prime Minister saying we have the numbers, and when the budget happened, Within 2 hours of the budget, when Times Now interviewed Pranab Mukherjee, he said we will do retail, it will take a few months, there are certain procedural issues. And the general expectation on the street was then that FDI and retail would happen around autumn. It never happened. And neither have they been able to build, which is my next question. And
remember, Arnav, as far as FDI in retail is concerned, it doesn't even require legislation. No. And if something that doesn't require legislation, that couldn't go through, how do you expect legislation on FDI increases in pension and banking?
People like Anand Sharma was going around in Davos saying that after the elections, retail sector reforms are going to be revived. Where is that talk now? The point is, if the Prime Minister says that he has got the numbers, I think he is seriously misreading the situation. Because both these issues call for legislation.
Question is today on tough economic issues. A government has to build political consensus.
Absolutely. That's
I take the example of the goods and services tax. Now this has become the biggest bore. For the last 7 years, this government, UPA 1 and UPA 2, have promised a GST. Do you see this government any closer, Subhashish Da, to announcing a uniform GST across the country?
It's very close to announcing. The question is
very close
how it's moving.
That by which date, right? Exactly. So it is being pushed back from 2008 to 2009, and even 2012 April. It is not going to happen. And certainly with this sort of political maneuverings by the state parties, it becomes a problem. But what was just being mentioned now, this requires leadership. Right? Because GST is in everybody's interest. You just have to get that idea across. You just have to do the homework.
But this government won't be given that leg room, will it, Manisha? No. Not by the BJP, which is going to extract its pound of flesh. The general view is the BJP senses today the government is weak-kneed. It will push reforms if and when it comes to power. It will not let this government take any credit for pushing through any major reforms, including GST. Do you take that line?
But the point really is that on the front of consensus, a weak-kneed leadership and a leadership that does not believe in consensus making, you will be surprised or not that many smaller regional parties, including those that are within the UPA, in fact, do not have ideologically hard positions on most of these reforms. In fact, pension is the only thing.
So why are they holding out?
Because they feel that the Congress leadership does not talk to them. They feel that what is being done in the GST is really, breaking down of the method of consensus. And they are being taken for a ride. They are being taken for a ride.
As I can see on GST, Sushil Modi more or less is now just saying, compensate us for the loss. Likely loss, stays likely. And I think the battle is about how much compensation. And one thing Pranab could say...
They've been saying this for several years now.
But Pranab could say in tomorrow's budget, I'm going to give you 70,000 crores or whatever else it is. And then he'll be able to promise a date. But I think that I'm hoping that you will do something.
There is a lot of ill will between the centre and the states
on this. And GST is becoming a federal issue.
One is reneging on various assurances of money. Bihar is a perfect example of that. And number two, a certain sort of tide aid sort of disbursement of central grants, which has caused such a lot of ill will among the states. So therefore, even non-ideological regional parties are basically wary of the type of federal structure or the centralized structure which they see this UPA government.
And Dr. Rajiv Kumar, do you think the GST is really going to roll out after several promised dates of rollout? Do you think it's going to keep the date this time around?
I don't think so. I'm afraid it won't happen this time. But as somebody said, the finance minister must now make an allocation for compensating states for any possible loss, which I don't think will happen as happened in the VAT case. But I'm afraid this is one cause that is lost already. GST will not be announced tomorrow. And we'll have to wait another year. And I just hope that they do it even in the 1 year that lies ahead of us. But it's such an important reform. For the India Incorporated, for the business community, for making India an integrated economy, an integrated market. The sooner they do it, the better off we are. And I don't see what the problem is in doing so, except of course that the state governments begin to fear the loss of their fiscal sovereignty much more at the hands of a central government, which doesn't seem to be consultative in its approach. And I think that has to change, and maybe that's just too much to expect at this point of time.
I just want to get a sense of any of our panelists on what their expectation on taxes personal taxes and corporate taxes are. What's the lookout this time, Navika? What's your sense?